Recently, I came across quite a strange article which kind of detailed one of the more interesting things that Saab kind of developed and tried to produce while they were still in business, and that was the Saab Sensonic gearbox, which Top Gear actually did a bit on, which I will showcase and talk about here in a minute. But before we get into what Saab Sensonic was and probably why it failed and why it wasn't the best, I do want to mention that, well, I finally have abandoned my old camera, which I used for about 3 or 4 years on this channel. That was a Canon G9X Mark II. I used that thing for, like I said, almost every video for 3 or 4 years, and I always had problems with, sometimes it would struggle to focus. It wasn't really the best in low light. It was a good portable handheld camera, but it really was just time to move on. I couldn't put any external audio source into it, and now that I've got a new phone, which is the iPhone 13 Pro, which is really kind of the best camera, camera phone that you can get. I have some lapel mics that I've bought over the years for my my GoPros that I can utilize with this, and then when I'm filming in here, I can use this microphone that I bought, which I don't use as much as I should for how much it cost. So that way we can focus on really improving the audio on the channel and as well as the video quality to go along with that. So I just wanted to mention that to you guys. Without further ado though, let's go ahead and get into this video. And I know a lot of you have been asking about the S3 when that's getting repaired. I do actually have a pretty substantial update video coming on this car. Saab Sensonic was quite a strange idea. Like I alluded to in the beginning of this video, Top Gear did a bit on this, which really briefly and concisely explained what it was, but they did leave some information out, so I wanted to talk about that more here, which is a bit funny, and it does expose some of the flaws of Sensonic and why it probably wasn't produced long term. I will link that at the top of the description. What Sensonic was, to finally get around to it, is pretty much a automated manual, or a cross between an automatic and a manual. It's somewhat like a sequential gearbox, but not really. Like a sequential, I kind of look at a sequential as like a cross between an automatic and a manual, and the Sensonic was also like a cross between an automatic and a manual, but in a completely different way than like a sequential gearbox would. So with Sensonic, you still had the gear lever in the middle, like you would on a standard manual car. Now, the only difference, and the major difference, was that you didn't have a clutch pedal with Sensonic. So Sensonic was meant to somewhat combine the best of manual with the best of automatic, and removing the worst of automatic and the worst of manual, and in some ways it accomplished that, and in other ways it somewhat failed. So you might be wondering, well, if I'm controlling the gears down here going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how am I supposed to get it into gear without without a clutch pedal? And the whole point is that is done by computer. So Saab developed Sensonic back in the mid 1990s, right around the time they debuted the new gen Saab 900. And if you're wondering, there were very few NG 900s apparently produced with the Sensonic gearbox. However, they're very rare, and Saab quickly ditched it because it ended up being a complete and total failure. Much like a lot of the things Saab did, I guess. But point being, the clutch is operated by computers automatically. So the car is supposed to be good enough to know when I should and shouldn't be changing gears, when it knows that I'm going to actually change the gear, when I'm letting off the brake at a stop, it knows to engage the clutch so I can just start going by just putting my foot on the gas. It provided that drivability with you being able to manually control what gear you're in and giving you that feel of driving a manual car without having to worry about the clutch and using your left foot to operate the clutch and things like that. Saab also claimed that Sensonic would prolong the life of your clutch and other transmission related parts. Maybe just because it knew when to shift and it wouldn't, possibly stall the car like you would if you didn't know how to drive manual. I figured before I go into this any further, I want to go ahead and showcase the Top Gear bit that they did on this, where they really went ahead and exposed one of the major weaknesses of the Sensonic. So when you're driving up a hill, like let's say you're driving up a hill, you come to a stop in your manual car. Now in the Sensonic, when you'd let off the brake, the car would roll. It would be like the car was in neutral, and then when you press the gas, it would go. So what happens when you're on a hill with Sensonic? You let off the brake and the car just rolls back. That becomes exaggerated even more when you're in reverse. For example, you know, you're trying to go up a hill and you can kind of feather the clutch and the brake, or the clutch and the gas, excuse me, so you can kind of slowly glide back to wherever you're going. Same goes when you're starting off on a hill. So with this top gear bit here, they really tried to expose that by trying to fit into a spot that, if you look, is clearly, very, very clearly, way too small to even fit the car into to begin with. And you can see James May he does an extremely good job explaining Sensonic very briefly. But I'm gonna go ahead and show a short bit here of him trying to actually park the car. So you guys might have noticed there that he isn't able to actually park the car. In my opinion being that he isn't able to park the car because the spot's just too small for the car to begin with. But it kind of proves the point that Sensonic in a lot of scenarios might not have been an ideal gearbox. And I think Saab had a great idea with this gearbox, but in the real world, there were certain scenarios such as that where it just wouldn't work and it would be really, really difficult to use. Earlier in the video, I stated that Sensonic was sold on a very select few amount of new gen Saab 900s. Apparently, these were only offered on one Turbo 900s. And after the year 1997, they ditched them. So I don't know exactly how many 900s were made with Sensonic. I haven't, or at least I can remember, I haven't, you know, seen one that I can think of with Sensonic. So maybe it wasn't even offered in America. I truly don't know on that. If I were looking for a Saab, again, personally, I don't think I would look for a Sensonic. As cool as it would be to have, what if something breaks? I don't know how you get parts for a Sensonic transmission. Can you even get parts for a Sensonic transmission? So I think it's cool in concept, like I mentioned, but I think Saab just kind of fell short. They might not have had the time or the money to really fine tune some of these weird idiosyncrasies and in-town real-world issues that you might have had, like Top Gear exposed. So I think with more time, it could have been a good, useful transmission, but here it is, another failed project by Saab, unfortunately. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of the Sensonic gearbox down below in the comments, and I'll see y'all next time.